What is up, Rally Tau fam? Welcome to the show. Tonight, Town Hall Tuesday. With you as always, I'm Bobby. This is Todd. We are going to be answering all of your questions tonight. Sorry, there's not a fancy little countdown like Corey usually has going. But it's my first time on this app powered by Melon. This thing is actually great. If you're looking at getting into any sort of content creation or podcasting yourself, I'd highly recommend it. It's very easy to use. I literally just did all of this in the last 10 minutes. So it's very straightforward. I do have a couple of things I need to ask him because I didn't have enough time to toy around with it. But it's a lot of fun. So, but let's waste no time. Todd, how are you today, sir?
Great. It's already Tuesday. Feels like we were just watching college basketball together on Saturday.
I know.
And 2 days, Declan is a year old. It's absolutely insane.
Where did the time go?
Dude, I have no idea.
Where on this earth did a whole year go? I feel like he was. I feel like you guys just told me you were pregnant like 3 weeks ago.
Dude, tell me about it. I know.
What are the plans for you guys this weekend?
Well, we'll be celebrating his first birthday with the fam down in Cincinnati. We're gonna be having a birthday party at Mary's parents' house. It's of course
very good.
Baseball themed because
Absolutely.
For those of you that didn't know, opening day was supposed to be in 2 days.
Yes.
For the Reds, at least. For the Reds. Opening day for the Reds was supposed to be on Thursday. And we were going to go with the whole Rookie of the Year theme. That's what we're rolling with. So all of the snacks and decor have been purchased. And Mary's got to make a couple of things, but super excited, man. I can't believe it's already been a whole year of Declan. Absolutely insane.
Absolutely, dude. That's great. Chat, if you guys could let me know if you're able to type in there. I just want to make sure that everything is live and we're working. This is the first time I've been live on this, so if you guys could let me know that you're in there, that would be fabulous. That you can hear us, that everything is going according to plan. Let's see here. Yeah, everything looks good on my end. So
yeah.
All right, well, let's get into it. We had a personal request earlier today from the post that Todd put out. It's Town Hall Tuesday. What do you guys want us to talk about? What questions do you want us to address? Jeff came in with a comment and said he wanted us to address Gino Auriemma. Is that how you say his last name?
Auriemma.
Knew I was close. Mr. Wheeler, hello. Making it to the Final Four in 14 straight seasons.
Yeah, again. Just say again.
Again, yeah.
Again.
It's unreal.
Yeah.
There's I don't care if it's women's basketball. I don't care if it's baseball. I don't care what sport it is. To have the talent at that elite of a level for that length of a time, it's pretty fucking impressive.
Yeah, if you look at his lifetime record, I believe he has lost less than 200 career games as a head coach at UConn. And he has been coaching at the University of Connecticut since 1985. So think about that.
Before we were born.
Yeah. So for 36 years, almost 37 years, he is, I believe his career winning percentage is around like 85%. So when you get on the floor with a Gino Auriemma coached UConn women's Huskies basketball team, you have a less than 20% chance of winning. That's what that tells me. 11 national championships. I believe this is the 17th tournament. They've had 14. They had 14 consecutive conference championships. Won their conference 14 years in a row. Just want to say that one more time. 14 years in a row they won their conference.
Good Lord.
Yeah, 11 national championships. Believe only second to John Wooden in terms of national championships, and that's a close
Ridiculous.
second because I believe John Wooden has 12. So yeah, I mean he's arguably he's the second best college basketball coach of all time, and the amount of talent that he's been able to bring through that have made it to to the WNBA and won Olympic gold medals that have gone through UConn. It's absolutely insane.
All
I mean,
right,
you're
well,
talking about
let's play this game. Who's the best player to ever go through UConn women's basketball?
Diana Taurasi, no questions asked.
Yeah, that was gonna be mine too. But I mean, she's an absolute beast.
I think she's the third best women's basketball player of all time.
Ooh,
who
do you have above her?
Candace Parker. Candace Parker is the best female athlete, second best female athlete that's ever lived, behind Serena Williams.
Wow.
Candace Parker is 6'4", and when she was at the University of Tennessee, she played basketball at such a high level that she was dropping like 25 in the first half, and they'd be up by so much that she just wouldn't play in the second half sometimes. It was absolutely insane. And then she had an incredible WNBA career. I believe she has 3 Olympic gold medals. And now she is one of the honest. Yeah. And I think she's one of the better basketball analysts that are on TV right now. The way that she understands the game is different from anybody else. I love hearing her talk about basketball because I think that she sees small nuances within the game that make you watch it just a little bit different, and I love that about her. I think Candace Parker is great. I'm sorry that I'm a little sad that she's on ESPN. I think that she should switch over to the dark side and join the boys over at TNT and be covering the WNBA or covering the NBA with Shaq and Charles Barkley.
That would be incredible.
I hope that happens in the near future. I understand why she's doing ESPN because she can cover men's and women's basketball, but she needs a pay raise for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. Ryan's like, wonder where she went, Todd.
She's a Volt. I mean, to be fair, I guess Pat Summitt was probably towards the end of her coaching career by then, because I believe she had already been diagnosed with Alzheimer's by then. But I mean, Gina Auriemma and Pat Summitt are kind of 1A and 1B in terms of women's college basketball coaches. And I think the only thing that Gino has her beat on total wins and national championships. That's the only way that I would rank him over her in terms of what he's done to impact the women's college basketball.
Yeah, I mean, if every women's NCAA tournament came down to Gino and Pat, yeah, you're in for a great game. So
yeah, absolutely.
And it happened quite a few times. But Ryan's question is, let's talk about my Vols for a minute, sweeping number 1 Ole Miss and taking over that number 1 spot.
That is, he's talking about college baseball. And it's funny because I sent a video to Ryan today that I found of Ben Joyce. And if you aren't familiar with who Ben Joyce is, in a game that they played, I believe on Saturday, he threw a 104-mile-an-hour fastball. And it wasn't a strike, but he threw two 102-plus-mile-an-hour strikes, and then he threw a 91-mile-an-hour changeup. So just put that into perspective. An 11-mile-an-hour difference from what I call it a running fastball is what he throws, just based on where his arm angle and where the ball tradition kind of crosses the plate. It runs a lot, and at 103 miles an hour, I have no idea how it even has time to run. I mean, it's literally getting out of his hand to home plate in a second. But he has a really, really hard and late breaking changeup. If he can develop, kind of like Jordan Hicks developed a splitter to work off of that fastball, he could be a closer for as long as his arm holds up in Major League Baseball. Yeah. He still has some control issues with when you throw over 100 miles an hour. Who gives a fuck?
But he's young, man. He's gonna the control's gonna come. I mean, Aroldis Chapman didn't have control when he first came up and was slinging that cheese, and look at him now.
Right. Yeah, so I think we're 4 or 5 years away from seeing him in a closer role at the major league level. I think
Yeah.
if he can maintain a healthy arm, and again, he needs to develop a third pitch. He can't just throw a fastball and a changeup. I don't care how hard you throw. These guys figure out how to hit. Chapman doesn't have a career 0 ERA, right? Like he gets hit hard sometimes. He's gonna get tagged if he just throws 100+ mile an hour fastballs. He has to have something to work off of that fastball, and if he can develop a splitter or a sinker or something that has some late down and away break to a righty or a down and into a lefty, he could be a 40 save a year guy. He could be a resurgence to the closer role, because we haven't really seen in the last. You have Kenley Jansen, you have Aroldis Chapman, and then you kind of sprinkle in the closer role has changed a lot. There's not guys that are consistently hitting the 35-40 save mark year over year. Mark Melancon was in the top 5 for saves for last year. Was the last? That's crazy. That's not a traditional role for him. So I'd love to see the flame throwing closer back to the game. I think that's the fun part of baseball, that you could build a good fan base off of a really good closer. Look what Chapman did for Cincinnati. Look what Mo did for New York for almost 2 decades.
Right.
Everybody that was in Yankee Stadium looked forward to hearing Enter Sandman and watching Mariano Rivera come out of the bullpen and throw nothing but strikes. Like that was the best part of the game a lot of the time. And I'd love to see somebody else come in and do that.
Yeah, seeing a guy like Brian Wilson come out to the mound for the Giants.
Think about
Eric Gagne.
Yes, that's exactly what I was going to say. Gagne coming out at 6'5", 260 pounds, and
just
throwing
an absolute tank.
Right, throwing a 97-mile-an-hour fastball backed up with basically a 75-mile-an-hour eephus changeup that nobody knew how to hit. Like that baseball was fun. Or pitching was, I think, in my opinion, was a lot more fun then, because the closer role was super relevant and it was really important, and that's how you won big games. And it just seems you can platoon bullpens now and still win 90 games. It just feels much different.
Yeah, absolutely. If he could, like you said, if he can add he really only needs 3 pitches. If he can add a split finger fastball in there that looks the same coming out of his hand, as that fastball does, he'll be set. You don't need a lot of pitches to be effective. You need at least 3. You have to have at least 3. That's the minimum at the major league level. You can get away with it in high school and college, but not when you get up to the big boys.
Yeah, you have to have a pitch that you have, or the out pitch, and a changeup at the major league level is very, very few and far between as an out pitch, and it has to be really, really good. I think the last time, other than Gagne, that we've seen somebody use a changeup as a true out pitch was Trevor Hoffman, who's a top 5 closer all time, but the dude was like Greg Maddux on the mound. Everything he threw was a strike, and he knew exactly what he was doing with it. So,
oh yeah, for sure. Caroline, Ryan, Nick, Josh, everybody else who's liked the video so far, appreciate you guys swinging through this evening. Town Hall Tuesday, so if you have questions, anything you want us to talk about, please let us know. We did get some interesting news out of the football world today. The Red Rifle is going down to New Orleans. What's your take on that, Todd?
I think that means there's going to be a competition for the starting quarterback in New Orleans this season, because they've immediately after signing Andy Dalton, New Orleans said that Taysom Hill is going to no longer be taking on a quarterback role, right? Like they're not going to be bringing him in to, like they did last year when Jameis got hurt, to throw the ball 35 times a game. He is specifically going to be what I would call the equivalent to an H-back in the NFL. He's going to line up like a tight end. He's going to give you the opportunity to kind of run similar to how Pittsburgh ran with Antoine Randall, because they always ran him out of the slot, and you could kind of run that jet sweep into, Taysom Hill could throw a 40-yard, 50-yard bomb still. He's got a strong arm. So I think that Andy Dalton starts in New Orleans this year. That's what that tells me. I think maybe Jameis isn't quite on time in terms of rehabilitation. That's initially where my head went when I heard they were signing Andy Dalton, was that Jameis is delayed in terms of being ready to come back. And Andy Dalton gives you a somewhat sure-handed quarterback to be able to manage the time of a game, right? And look, New Orleans isn't going to be they're not going to be making waves in the NFC. I don't think that they're a true contender to make it deep into the playoffs. They've got a lot of money locked up into a lot of people on some deals that didn't really work out in their favor. So it's going to take some time for them to get back to winning and being the Saints of the late 2000s, early 2010s. So
especially with a coaching change as well, Sean Payton not being a huge blow
absolutely
to the Saints in that franchise. I mean, that man was there through a lot, especially even their Super Bowl winning years with Drew Brees. And I think when you get a great coach like that, the loss of them not being there is sometimes forgotten. So we'll see how they transition, in a Sean Payton-less world. But without a solid starting quarterback and then some question marks on that offense, it's going to be interesting. Ryan said they don't have a running back either. Don't forget Kamara got arrested.
Yeah, there's a good chance Kamara misses. My assumption is he gets suspended to start the year, and usually I believe he got arrested for assault, right? Assault and battery.
I believe that's accurate.
I'm going to verify that real quick. Yeah, because he was in Vegas.
Yep.
It's the Pro Bowl, right?
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Vegas, man, there's something about it. These NFL players just can't seem to control their themselves.
Got into a fight at the club in Vegas and basically left a dude unconscious and just walked away from it. And enough people said they saw Alvin Kamara beating the shit out of somebody or being a part of beating the shit out of somebody, and he turned himself in. So yeah, Ryan's absolutely right. I mean, New Orleans is in a real sticky stitch in terms of how they're going to get through this first leg of the season. I think that extra week doesn't make much of a difference for them after losing Kamara for a while and not really they don't really have any weapons.
Yeah, no, it's definitely going to be tough for them. It's not going to be a typical New Orleans Saints team. In the last 2 years, they've lost Drew Brees and Sean Payton, amongst other key pieces to that team. So it's going to be interesting to see how they rebound. Andy Dalton definitely has his work cut out for him. We'll see what kind of impact he can go down there and have. I don't expect great things, but I don't expect him to be the worst team in the league. But they'll definitely be fighting for it.
Yeah, I think it's funny because you got a guy like Michael Thomas who is such a garbage person, and the cards just continue to not be stacked into his favor.
Yeah,
and it's got to be a matter of time before he just goes to New Orleans and just says, "Hey, you got to trade me, or I'm not going to play. I'm just going to sit out." Right? It's got to be close for him.
Yeah, he's really going to be like their only like viable offensive weapon, outside of like maybe Taysom Hill gets to start at running back, if Kamara gets suspended, and then they got Taysom Hill in the backfield. And
they have Mark Ingram too. I mean, Mark Ingram is not the same Mark Ingram from 4 or 5 years ago, but
no,
they still have him, I guess. But yeah, it's a tough spot. New Orleans is in a bad position. It sucks for Dennis Allen too.
Yeah. Ryan said having a team in Vegas is the worst idea ever.
We've talked about that before.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more. It was a great move if you have the right people. I think that's a two-sided thing. It's a great move financially for a franchise to move there, but you've got to have boundaries in place and players that can handle that environment 24/7. You put these kids in there who come from nothing and now they have millions of dollars and they see this extravagant nightlife. I can't say I wouldn't have gone out and, dropped, 20, 30 grand on an evening and gotten freaking buck wild.
Right.
But
right. It's true though. I mean, and I think we're not super far off. I'm seeing a couple more professional franchises get into Vegas, right? I mean, you're talking about Tampa Bay's the Rays are not going to be back in Tampa Bay after 2026. It's just not going to happen. It's not a good place to have a baseball team. Their ticket sales show you that. If you watch a Tampa Bay game, there's nobody in the stands ever. It's in a dome in Florida. That's not good. Like, it's just bad. It's bad. It's a bad environment. It's not great. So when that contract's up, they're either gonna commit back to going to Montreal, or they're gonna enter into a new city that hasn't had a baseball team before, or a major league baseball team. Let me rephrase that, because Vegas does have they have a AAA team that plays out of Las Vegas, but it makes the most sense. I mean, you really don't have to do a ton of shuffling in terms of getting the division to where you need to get to. You move one of the Texas teams into I guess maybe you can move them to the AL Central, and you can move a team from the AL East or from the AL North to the AL East, whatever. You can make it work. You make it work, or the AL Central to the AL East, whatever. You can make it work one way or the other.
Yeah.
So
absolutely.
It's a matter of time.
I'm going to keep throwing random shit out here. Please do, man. One thing I did see, speaking about Vegas, there were some talks about Derek Carr and his contract extension as he's going into the next couple seasons. And the Raiders organization basically said that your contract extension is not guaranteed. They basically said, well, it's kind of like we'll see how it goes. So Derek Carr is not a protected quarterback. I think Corey's mentioned it multiple times. He's not a top tier quarterback in this league. I would say he's more of a middle of the road guy. If we're talking Corey's terms, I think Derek Carr is a pretty good quarterback. But as far as not having a guaranteed contract extension, what do you think about that?
So I think that just shows you how easy it is at the professional level to just you get the rug taken out from under you in a heartbeat, right? And I think that the days of franchises being loyalty to players is gone. I mean, you're loyal to the trophy, right? You want the Lombardi. You need the Lombardi in the case. Derek Carr isn't going to sit in the case for you for a lifetime. Those Lombardi trophies are going to be the ones that get you the money, that get you the revenue. If they ain't winning in Vegas and Derek Carr is a scapegoat for them, it's very easy to trade him off and
start over,
get somebody else, right? And I don't think there's nobody that they could trade for that's a viable option, right? I don't think you don't trade for Baker Mayfield and get better in that scenario. I think they're kind of one and the same. And you give Derek Carr and Devontae Adams to maybe they reestablish the rapport they had at Fresno State, right? Maybe that's a connection that takes a couple weeks to get back to. And 7 or 8 years is a long time, 7 years is a long time not to throw to somebody. But if the connection's as good as it was when they were at Fresno State and Derek Carr's senior year, they were undefeated. So it's maybe something's still there, but I think it just shows you how football has shifted from player loyalty to you got to win. It's win, lose, or get the fuck out. That's pretty much what it is right now. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's fair.
That's what we've shifted to. And we've talked we've talked some about free agency, and you guys have talked, a couple different times on Thursdays about how, there's been so many shifts and all these changes in big names get these ridiculously large contracts. And we talked about Deshaun Watson a lot last Tuesday, and it's crazy. This is the most money we've seen move in free agency for baseball and football ever.
Yeah, I mean,
the amount of money that's being thrown out, especially to quarterbacks, the dollar amount that quarterbacks are being paid per year right now is absolutely wild.
I mean, does that go back to the argument where, that we were having the entire postseason about, it comes down to quarterback play, and you think the NFL teams and organizations are recognizing that and they're starting to shell it out?
Yeah, I think yes, I to answer your question, yes, I think that's what we're seeing, that organizations are turning to the, ride or die with the top tier quarterback. And I think the Browns, they put the period on the end of that sentence, right? You guarantee a guy that isn't guaranteed to start the season $250 million. $250 million is basically what Deshaun Watson gets over the next 5 right now, no matter what. He gets that money over the next 5 years.
Yeah.
and you maybe don't get him for 6 up. I've heard suspensions of up to 10 games. So over half the season, they might not have that guy. And, that's why they went out and signed Jacoby, because Jacoby's a guy that can keep you in a game for a while. And, you have the Chubb, Kareem Hunt tandem. They could still be in it in the AFC North. If you look at Vegas, Vegas says that they're going to fucking win the AFC somehow, some way. I don't know how that turned. You signed Deshaun Watson and become the best team in the AFC. I don't know how that makes any sense. But Vegas says that they're the favorites to win the AFC North.
Yeah. There's still a lot of – go ahead.
I just strongly disagree with that. I think that I don't know. Cincinnati has only gotten better. I think you look at free agency and you look at the value, just pure value of free agency. Cincinnati is in the top 3 of that conversation.
Oh, right? Yeah, absolutely.
The Chargers are certainly in that conversation in terms of what they've done to be better on the defensive side of the ball. They still haven't addressed being able to stop the run game, but that's neither here nor there. But in terms of just getting the best for not having to turn over the over $15 million a year, because we haven't seen the Bengals pay anybody over $11 million a year. They've added some contracts. Yeah,
they've added some big pieces.
Right. I mean, you buffed up the spot that everybody said was your issue. You buffed up the offensive line. They still can. J.C. Tretter's still out there. I still could see him being the center for the Bengals next year. That's not set in stone that Jackson Carman's that left guard, but I think organizations they saw some really good moves made by teams that traditionally don't play strong in free agency, and it went from like, all right, I can budget, let's say $100 million over 5 weeks, 6 weeks leading up to the draft. Well, now it's like, oh shit, I got to put all my eggs in this basket. Here, let's trade for Devontae Adams and give him the biggest contract ever. Oh, and then on the Dolphins, let's trade for Tyreek Hill and give him the biggest contract extension ever.
Everybody got the bag this offseason, man.
Yes, and I'm very interested to see specifically what the Raiders do and what the Dolphins do, because I think those are I could give 2 shits about what the Browns do, because I still don't think that they win the AFC North, because they've really only made 1 move, and that was Deshaun Watson. I guess 2. They got Amari Cooper as well, but they're still I don't know.
That's a tough hill to climb.
Yeah, so I'm really interested to see what the Raiders and Dolphins are able to do with the amount of money that they spent, because don't forget the Dolphins also gave Teron Armstead $75 million over 5 years, and he hasn't played a full season in 2 years or 3 years.
Right. No, I mean, if you look at the AFC North, the Steelers got better, the Bengals got better. I haven't really seen the Ravens do a whole hell of a lot, but they're already a good team. They just got extremely hurt last year. Yeah. So, if anything, the AFC North got better as a whole this offseason, with the exception of, I would say, Cleveland. I don't think they got any better. I would say they stayed the same, if not got a little worse.
They're better. Look, Deshaun Watson is a significantly better option than Baker Mayfield, in my opinion.
If he plays.
Right. When he's on the field. And let's say he does get suspended for 10 games, right? That means that he hadn't thrown a football in an NFL game. I believe that makes it 25
over 2 years.
Months. Yeah, it makes it 25 months, 26 months. That is a long time to not get hit by somebody.
Right.
And trust me, the objective of every edge rusher and every defensive lineman when they're lined up against Deshaun Watson on their side of the ball, they're going to try to ruin his life.
Oh yeah.
And it's for the sole reason that don't forget that you haven't played football. You got your bag. Congratulations. Now let me fucking knock your helmet off. That's going to be the mentality of all these guys.
Yeah. Yeah. Who's going to take out the $230 million man?
Right. Absolutely.
Ryan came in and said the Armstead deal was $75 million. All of the Bengals signings were roughly 80.
Yep.
The Bengals. This is definitely their best offseason, and since I can remember, it's definitely top 3 in the NFL this year, if not the best off season as far as just overall just improving your team where you needed to do it. Ryan also came in with a comment prior to that. Back to baseball. Pujols is coming back to the Cardinals. This is definitely his last year. I did see that. Sorry, Todd, you froze. What's up?
Oh, no, I was gonna say shit, I lost my train of thought. Go on with what you're saying.
Pujols is coming back to the Cards. Actually had a conversation with Tez about this, who was in here last week. Big Cardinals fan out of St. Louis. We were talking about it yesterday while we were playing some games together, and we were talking about him going to LA and kind of like how that deal came to fruition, and the main point was Pujols didn't ever want to leave St. Louis. St. Louis upgraded to a younger guy. They didn't want to invest the time into Pujols after that big contract that they did, and LA decided to pick it up. Yep. But Pujols is back to finish his career where he actually wants to be. I don't expect great things from him this season. He is like 47 years old. It's a little bit of an exaggeration, but yeah, I mean, what kind of impact does Pujols have this year? And is this just more of like a farewell tour and a retire as a Cardinal type deal?
You're forgetting that Adam Wainwright and Yadier Molina are also going to retire after this season, right? Like you're talking about those 3 guys were really the heart and soul of the Cardinals in those mid 2000 years. I mean, Yadier Molina, you've talked about it, and I hate that I'm going to agree with you in this instance, but I think he's the best defensive catcher of all time.
He's the best catcher we've seen in our lifetime,
and he's a Hall of Famer. And, it's based on how many Gold Gloves he's won and how many times that he was an impact in them. Him being able to throw out base runners or calling a game. Yadier Molina calls every single game.
Yeah. There's no assist from the dugout. He calls it from the first pitch of the game to the last. Yes. Whether that's 100 pitches, whether it's 200.
Yes.
I can't think of really anybody else in the league that still does that.
I think Tucker Barnhart is one of the exceptions that he still calls most of the games. And that might change in Detroit. I don't know. He called a lot of games in Cincinnati. I think and that's why he didn't catch Trevor Bauer, because Trevor Bauer basically calls his own game. But yeah, they're retiring 2 guys for sure that are Hall of Famers, first ballot Hall of Famers. Let me make sure I say that very clearly. And then a 3rd guy that you could argue that has, outside of some injuries, has been one of the best pitchers of the 21st century.
Yeah.
Adam Wainwright in his prime was damn near impossible to hit. He is 6'7", and he throws from almost completely over the top. You know how hard it is to track a baseball that's coming from 12 feet in the air? I mean, think about that. That's where we're at. Like, it's pretty incredible to see. I think it's great that St. Louis has all these guys together. I can't wait to watch them play in the last series in St. Louis and Wainwright get the start on the hill. Yadier catches his last game, and Albert Pujols plays first base. I think that's the romantic part of baseball that people forget about with all the bullshit that we've been dealing with. That's a really special moment for the city of St. Louis and for Cardinals fans and for baseball fans as a whole.
Yeah, that's going to be. I mean, as much as it sucked, over the years, it was always a pleasure to go watch the Cardinals and see those guys play. Knowing that you're watching, Hall of Famers, you're watching greatness, you're watching these, even when Jim Edmonds would come and fucking smack, a home run in the bottom of the 9th and wreck our dreams.
And also rob a home run in the same game.
And rob a home run. Yeah. Yeah. Fucking asshole.
Back to the you talked about Pujols' move to Anaheim or Los Angeles Angels, whatever you want to call them.
Yeah.
The Angels are historically known for writing really, really bad contracts. That has been their MO for a really long, ever since they won the World Series in the early 2000s. They have done nothing but make terrible moves on
Troy Glaus and Tim Salmon.
on guys that are on really good players that are outside of their prime, minus Shohei Ohtani and Mike Trout.
Yeah.
Pretty much every other move that they've made has not been to their benefit. And maybe with the exception of Raisel Iglesias, who had the best year of his career last year in Anaheim. And that was based off of a trade, right? That wasn't like they went out and got him. They traded for him. And he just, Albert had already been dealing with some injuries in St. Louis, and then they wanted to play him at first base. He should not have been a first baseman at that point in time. They should have automatically slid him into the DH role and let him just hit. And then he got really out of shape. Remember Albert Pujols in the late 2010s up until really last year? Albert Pujols played with a beer gut, and and he's this year, and I think that's a testament to where he's at. He's exactly where he wants to be. He wants to be in St. Louis, but I just think the Angels are a place where people go to to get as much money as they can and just eat up their shitty contract and hope that they don't get hurt. They're in the same circumstance with Anthony Rendon right now. I mean, they give Anthony Rendon an enormous contract, and the dude played 25 or 30 games last year, and he hit like 220. So the only good, and look at Trout. Trout's been hurt pretty much 2 of the last 3 years. Like, I just hate what happens to people when they put on the Halo uniform. It just seems like shit just goes south quickly.
Yeah, no, we've definitely lost some good years with Trout not being healthy, and it would be nice to see him play one full season, and not get hurt and see what he's actually capable of. I don't know if we've ever seen him play a full season, maybe in his early years, but it's been a while. So
it's been since 2017 since we've seen him play a real 155 game season. And even the COVID season, when he played the whole year, he hit almost 30 home runs in those 70 games. He had an insane COVID year. And then he started off super hot last year too. And he had 24 or 25 home runs before his season was over. He was on pace for 52 home runs. The dude would have been neck and neck with Shohei and Vladdy Jr. and Salvador Perez in the home run contest. And it would have been great for It would have been great for LA specifically to take some spotlight off the Dodgers, but it just didn't work out that way.
Absolutely. Ryan said Yachty's the second best catcher of our lifetime. Corky Miller is number 1. Gave me a good chuckle there. Good old Corky Miller. Actually got to see him catch a couple games in a Reds uniform. He's just your average Joe that can swing a baseball bat and didn't catch.
Here's a real question for you. Rubber meets the road, and we're talking 1999 to 2004 Reds. Who you want calling your game, Jason LaRue or Corky Miller?
Ooh, that's a good one. Man, I'd have to go with LaRue, man. LaRue wasn't necessarily the best bat, but man, he was great behind the plate. That's my take. I mean, you take Corky for the nostalgia, but if you're actually looking for value, I think you go with LaRue.
Jason LaRue was also a very good defensive catcher for what it's worth. Yeah. Dude couldn't swing the bat to save his life, really, but great defensive catcher. And he produced just enough at the plate to be able to ride out a few years in the pros, and then he ended up on the Cardinals, and then he got punched when the whole Phillips Yadier Molina fight went down. He got punched in the face. Great. Jason LaRue is a great guy. I met him at Reds Fest one year, and he was super nice. He gave me I believe somewhere in the shuffle, I've lost it by now, but he gave me a signed batting glove.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's gone now though. It's disappeared. I've moved way too many times to still have it.
Right. All right. Well, chat, just a reminder, this is Town Hall Tuesday. So if you have any questions, please let us know. Ryan, thank you for all the participation tonight, man. You've been great so far. Bruce coming in. What up, Bruce? He says,
Bruce.
What blue are you talking about, Bruce? Please,
Kentucky.
Please do tell. I don't know if that's a stab at Kentucky, but if it is, it's kind of funny.
No, it's not. It's not. It's not funny. You're wrong.
Well, I guess it depends on the perspective. Ryan said Yachty and Ivan Rodriguez are close, though.
It's true.
Yeah, I would say, man. I mean, we've we've been blessed with some great catchers in our lives. He's talking about the Dodgers.
That's good. That's not good. Why did I say it's good? That's not good.
I don't know. I wasn't going to stop you. I was hoping you were going to elaborate on that.
Yeah,
But no, I mean, you think about all the catchers we've seen in our lifetime. For those of us who are, in the 30 to 40 range, we had Jorge Posada with the Yankees, who was just a staple there. You had Ivan, you had Yachty, even the latter end of Mike Piazza's career. Yeah, I mean, we've been blessed with some great talent behind the plate. And
Joe Mauer,
Buster Posey.
Yeah, these guys are all great. I think we saw with the exception of Yadier Molina, we saw the offensive catcher come back a little bit. It had been a really long time for there to be Piazza was really, Pudge was fine at the plate. It's not like he was a crazy offensive threat. He was much more a defensive catcher than an offensive catcher. He just happened to be on a Rangers team that was chock full of steroids, and everybody was afraid to pitch to Rafael Palmeiro and Juan Gonzalez. So somehow,
right,
Pudge just got the right pitches. But it had been a long time since we had seen a really good offensive catcher, really dating back even to like Johnny Bench in the 70s. Like that was the last time that there was a catcher that was year in and year out, that was a silver slugger, that was hitting 25 to 35 home runs, knocking in 85 to $110. Like it had been, and we got to see 4 or 5 of them back to back to back to back, and that's pretty cool. I mean, I think Joe Mauer flies under a lot of people's radars because he was a Minnesota Twin, and there's just not a lot of love for the Twins and the media world.
Right.
But Joe Mauer is arguably, this is purely my opinion, I think he has one of the best left-handed swings in the history of baseball.
Joe Mauer was great.
He was great.
He was super consistent. He didn't get hurt a lot. You knew what you were getting with him. High 200s, low 300s. At batting average, he was getting on base. He was knocking in runs. He wasn't going to wow you with the power, but every now and then he got into one. But for the most part, he was super consistent. You knew what you were getting game in and game out with Joe Mauer, and he did it for such a long time.
Yeah, and I think that he got to the end of his career, and that's when the injury bug started hitting, and he had to start playing first base. And he lost. I feel like he partially lost some of that legacy of him as a catcher. But if I'm making an all decades team of the 2010s, he's my catcher. Like there's not a question to me that he's my catcher.
Wow.
That's a guy that basically caught 150 games a year when he was on Minnesota at the beginning. That doesn't really happen anymore either. Yeah. At 6'5", he's 6'5", catching that much. Like that's a lot of work to put on those legs, and to be able to hit 300 plus, be an all-star. I think he was an 8-time all-star. Like that says a lot about it. And I think he kind of paved it for guys to be able to be offensive threats and still be able to call a game too. Like look at what Salvador Perez did last year. Salvador Perez hit 48 home runs. Absolutely would have won the home run derby if it wasn't for Big Meat Pete swinging an absolute hammer, hitting home runs, hitting 6,000 home runs.
That dude's a machine.
He has the best home run derby swing. His swing is made for home run derbies. I'm sure his whole life, that's all he ever wanted to do, was probably he's Little League all the way up to now. It's like, hey, let's play a home run derby. No, Pete.
More financially, we've talked about it. He's made more financially off the derbies than he has for his player contract.
And he still has, even with this extension that they gave him this year, he still has made more money from winning home run derbies than what he's made off of his contract. And I
those
love
of you that don't know, the winner of the home run derby gets $1 million cash.
Yeah. Yeah. This was the first year that Pete, because the $7 million contract that he signed, I believe less than 3 of that is actually guaranteed. Most of that is built into incentives. One of them being that he wins the home run derby. That's built into his contract.
Holy crap. I didn't know that.
Yeah. Yes. He wins. I think the bonus was like $750,000 or $1 million. So basically, if he wins a home run derby this year, he gets $2 million. So
good Lord,
it's pretty, yeah.
More incentive for him to go in there and just absolutely hit bombs,
right?
Just drop nukes,
right? But back to I guess to wrap up what you were saying. Yeah, I think that we've been really blessed as baseball fans to see some of the top tier talent behind the plate call games and change the way that people look at a catcher. You know, traditionally for a long time, catchers were just guys that were able to call really good games. And, you know, now you can have a catcher that can hit 35 home runs, like 40 home runs, 45 home runs. Like that's pretty cool.
Yeah, absolutely. Ryan said Posey is always forgot about too. Not on this channel, sir. Not on this channel. One thing I will say about Buster Posey, he was a huge part of that Giants team. And after he had that collision at the plate where he snapped his ankle into 76 pieces.
Oh God. I could see it.
I
just saw it in my
it's an instant replay. It was a sunny day in San Francisco. And he's standing in front of the plate and he just gets run over and just his ankle gets like, it was like almost Gordon Hayward-esque. It's like the same style of injury where his body just folds and his ankle goes the other way and it's just gross. He wasn't really the same guy after that, which is a shame because he was, I mean, prior to the injury, I mean, that man was going to hit 40 home runs and bat 290 and knock in 100 every year. And it was an absolute shame that happened. And that's the reason why the rules have changed. If for those of you that don't know, that's the reason why collisions are no longer allowed at the plate, which was a very exciting part of baseball. Don't get me wrong. But man, when you get to that level and those, the players are getting bigger, faster, and stronger, it's just it's not safe. And it ends up ruining careers. Exactly.
Yep.
I'm not saying Buster Posey's career was ruined, but it was definitely hindered. By that play.
Ruin's a strong word, but it's significantly
impacted
I mean, him playing 12 years was a direct impact of that injury because he really couldn't catch anymore after that. And yeah, it just sucks that an injury like that happened to him because I think you're right. I think that's a guy that probably would have had well over 2,000 hits and would have had close to 400 career home runs and would have been a Hall of Famer. And now I don't think he gets into the Hall of Fame because his statistics were driven so far down based off of that injury.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, he does have he got 2 rings under his belt?
Yes.
And then was he MVP of that series?
No, I don't think so. Let me look it up.
I can't remember. But yeah, I mean, he's got the rings, but I just don't know if he has the stats to get in. I mean, with the way that baseball writers have been treating it, he might get in. Who knows? It's kind of a crapshoot at this point. Yeah, I think that's another thing we've talked about in length is the Hall of Fame process and the voting and how that goes in. Bruce, let me know if it's more when I talk or if it's more when Todd talks in regard to the feedback. My air conditioning my heat just kicked on. So I don't know if that's coming into the mic or not. But the Hall of Fame process right now is extremely flawed. We've talked about it in great lengths. Maybe we'll give you a refresher show here in the future about it. But Deb Posey is definitely one of the guys that's going to be on the bubble for sure.
Yeah, 7-time All-Star. He actually has 3 rings and 5-time Silver Slugger, 1 Gold Glove, and then 2-time comeback player of the year. So very impressive.
Yeah, absolutely. It stopped great. Josh Spence, what is going on, my guy? How are you? Welcome to the show. He dropped in a comment. Jason Varitek.
He must be a Red Sox fan.
Well, I mean, yeah, I mean, we overlooked him, or at least we didn't mention him. Obviously, a long-time Red Sox. I mean, there were so many great players that came through Boston, in our lifetime. I mean, everybody from Nomar to Pedro, Dustin Pedroia, I'd put him up there as one of the better Red Sox. Johnny Damon, before he went to the dark side and went over to the Yankees. Obviously, Big Papi. I mean, there's a ton, but Jason Varitek.
Dude, you didn't even say Manny Ramirez.
Nah, not Manny. Just kidding. I love Manny.
Crazy. I think Manny Ramirez is one of the better Red Sox of that time frame. I rank him as I mean, shit. I think Pedro, he wins that title for them. I think he's the best Red Sox of that time. Or if it's my personal opinion, I think it's Tim Wakefield. I mean, the dude pitched for
that knuckleball was insane.
But Jason Varitek was unique because he was basically like their, I don't know, like it seemed like he kind of ran the ship for them, right? Like he was their on-field leader, and he wasn't somebody that was going to give you. I mean, he was fine. He was fine at the plate, and he's a switch hitter, and he provided some offense for you. But you have so much padding there because even at that point in time, they had JD Drew as well. And JD Drew, outside of some injuries, was a 30 home run a year guy. Yep. Johnny Damon was one of the better leadoff hitters of the time. And then you plug in, Big Papi and then Manny. You don't really need much offensive. And they had Mike Lau then too.
Mike Lau.
Don't forget about Mike Lau, dude. That dude can hit too.
Yeah. No, I mean, there's a reason why they broke the curse in 2004.
Absolutely.
That team was stacked.
Yeah. And they've won 3 more after that, right?
Yeah. Yeah. They're just one of those things. They just needed to get off the schneid. And obviously they did that. But no, the Red Sox did some freaking awesome things, and then obviously you had a couple years later the Cubs finally got off that hump too, which was pretty neat. So
yeah,
some things that fans waited their entire lifetime for, we got to see it. So that's just the beauty of baseball. Could you imagine being a Red Sox fan and like for your whole life, and then just passing away in 2003 and not seeing it? Like,
dude, that's so terrible to think about.
It makes me sad.
Well, shit. People literally lived an entire lifetime without them winning, right?
Yeah.
Think about that. They traded Babe Ruth in the 1910s, something like that. That curse existed for almost 100 years.
Yeah, it was. They traded him in, I think, 1914.
Yeah,
1913.
So there's 2 generations within there that probably never saw them win a World Series ring, and then we get to see them win 4 and 20,
right?
Or 4, I guess technically 4 and 14 because they won like 03, 8, 10, 14, whatever it was. But
yeah,
it's cool, man. I like what the kind of like the like that 90s and the 2000s up until like 2012, what that was for baseball, because there were teams that were, you had your consistent, really, really good teams, but like you get to see the Red Sox win 4 times, and that was really over a whole generation for Big Papi, right? That was most of his career, but you got to see a whole new different Red Sox team win that World Series title in 14. So like that's pretty cool.
Yeah, absolutely. Ryan came with a comment. Does Bonds, Barry Bonds, Pete Rose, etc., deserve the Hall of Fame? I believe so. We've talked about this a ton. Yes, absolutely, 100%. I believe both of them should be in. Barry Bonds accomplished a lot in his career prior to steroids. I think really for him, I think the steroids added longevity to his career, which maybe that's where the writers have something wrong with it. But I mean, obviously he got bigger, he got stronger, but I think it just made him able to play longer. Pete Rose, I mean, he took no performance enhancing drugs, and he has the most hits of all time. On top of multiple World Series, and player coach doing it all. There's no question in my mind that Pete Rose should be in there. Todd, I'll let you have the floor on this.
Yeah, I don't think there's not there's not much of a counter argument to be made. And you made all the right points. Barry Bonds is those are two of the top 5 best hitters in the history of the game. That's it. Yes. Because
I could go pump myself full of steroids and step on a baseball field. Doesn't mean I'm going to hit shit.
Right. Yeah. I don't know. There's so many baseball's so screwed up right now with how they're doing the Hall of Fame shit. Because now all these guys that were in the Mitchell Report era are retiring, and now they're on the ballot, and it's just not good. Like, it's just not good. We're gonna have to deal with this for another 4 or 5 years. Some of these guys that are making votes will eventually move away. We'll get people within our age range that are going to get into the voting, and we'll see the right people get in. And unfortunately, the way we're going to see both of those guys get in is post-mortem. They're going to have to die to get into the Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
Right. You can have, they get to have the baseball. They get to have all the shit for Pete. They have Pete Rose's, his hit to pass Ty Cobb. They have Barry Bonds' home run ball to pass Hank Aaron. They have those in the Hall of Fame, but those guys don't get the statue. And I just think that's such bullshit.
Yeah. I mean, if you're not going to let them in, then you can't have any of their memorabilia.
Absolutely.
You can't have your cake and eat it too. You know what I mean? You can't have it both ways. You can't say they're not eligible to be in here and still have, pieces of their history in there. It just is so backwards. It makes zero sense. The baseball writers are an old guard that need to disappear soon because the game of baseball will be better for it when we start training. Because the game of baseball has changed immensely, since they first became a writer. And it's a good question. We'll get to in a second, Josh. It's changed immensely, and I don't think they really understand. I mean, these are the guys that are stuck in the 70s, basically. And since the 70s, the game it's no longer the same baseball game. And I would argue that there's a lot of players that played in that time frame that couldn't play in today's game. With how talented all the players are and how competitive it is, the way that pitchers are able to use technology to enhance their game. I mean, it is light years different than it was. I know you feel the same way, Todd. That's a lot of what I just said is what you've been saying, but yeah, I mean, it's an absolutely just crazy different game.
Yeah. It sucks. I don't know. It doesn't feel the same. Like when I visited Cooperstown and like being in there and getting to see all this, like being in that moment of all of the great players of that time, right? Because minus Pete Rose then, but most of these guys weren't eligible for the Hall of Fame yet, so it wasn't even a forethought. So it was really awesome then. But now, like, I don't want to take Declan there.
Oh.
Right? Like, I don't really.
I've never been. Desire. I don't want to go. I don't want to go until they start fixing shit.
It was a really cool moment for Nick and I to share that together and be able to spend. I mean, we literally were there for 5 hours. Our phones died. We drove back to our hotel, charged our phones, and ate lunch, and then drove back and spent the rest of the day there. Like, it was awesome. And I still think that we could have spent another 2 or 3 hours in there, just like taking everything in. But now, like, we're missing out on a big part of the game. Like, there's not really an homage to the McGwire, Sosa, Griffey home run chase that happened in 97. Like, that stuff's not in it. That was really important. That brought baseball back to the forefront for national media attention. And we don't even talk about it as being a top 10 moment in the game. Like, ESPN did a great job of doing that, covering that 30 for 30 on it and talking about that and talking about Mark McGwire and Sammy Sosa and really even touching on Junior a little bit in that. But it's just like baseball forgets that they kind of let steroids happen, right? Let's be realistic. That nobody was screaming, let's get these guys tested when McGwire and Sosa are selling out stadiums everywhere they go just so they could see number 56
all the dollars roll in.
Right. And then they saw number 60 and then they saw 63 and then they saw McGwire at 70.
It wasn't a problem until they started breaking records.
Right. And then some people started raising some eyebrows and saying like, all right, well now it's not legitimate. Nobody gave a shit when when in like 90, like from 90, let's say post lockout 96 to 2001, that these guys were hitting 55, 60 home runs a year, and you'd have 10 people doing it. Like, yeah, of course shit was going on. Nobody just goes from hitting 20. Look at Brady Anderson is the best example of steroids ever in baseball. Brady Anderson had never hit over 20 home runs in his whole entire career. And then in 1 year, he hits 50. How does that happen? It's steroids, right? Like that just happened. It worked. It worked out into his favor. He was able to create strength and use the ability that he already had to double 2.5 times his home run count. But nobody gave a shit then, right? It was like, oh, for Baltimore, it was like, oh, it's great. Now we got Brady Anderson. Let's get some more people in the seats. They want to see this guy hit leadoff home runs left and right.
Right.
Just who cares?
Like, yeah, and so the counter argument to that, where people are like, well, that's exactly what McGwire did, that's exactly what Bonds did, but they were hitting 40 home runs a season already.
Right.
50.
And they were also
they had that talent.
Also, McGwire was taking steroids from 1989 until he retired, right? I look, Canseco's not. I'm not using him as a reputable source, but there were a lot of people in the A's locker room that were juicing, including Ricky Henderson, who stole the most bases ever. Like all those guys were taking steroids.
Yeah, absolutely.
And just like you said, just start breaking records. That's it.
Yeah. Josh came over there to comment. You think the Reds are doing the money ball technique? Hell no. No, they are just disappointing everyone who's been a Cincinnati Reds fan for their entire lives.
Look at the signings that they've made, right? So let's talk about people that they've either let's jump from we won't talk about the Sonny Gray trade because there's nobody in that trade that makes immediate impact for Cincinnati. Chase Petty is still probably 3 to 5 years away from being even in the conversation of being in a Reds uniform. So you make the Mariners trade and you get Justin Dunn and you get Brandon Fraley. And the last part of that trade for them is a top 15 prospect for Seattle and is now a top 10 prospect for the Reds, just based on where he falls in the pitching line. But he's 2 or 3 years away. So Justin Dunn is a middle of the road starter who probably won't start the season because he has an elbow injury or something ridiculous. And Brandon Fraley has never hit over 230 in his major league career. Right. So you got a platoon a defensive outfielder replacement, and a 3 or 4 starter in your rotation, and maybe even a 5 starter in your rotation. If he makes other rosters, he doesn't make most rosters in Major League Baseball. Let's just be clear. So then you go and get Mike Minor, right? So you trade Amir Garrett, who he wasn't a help to the Reds bullpen anymore. Let's just call it what it is. He was not good last year. He wasn't really that great in the COVID year. He was just good because he was exciting, because he was his own hype man on the mound. So for younger people, it was fun to watch him go out there and kind of do his antics and his bullshit. But like, he wasn't helping the Reds anymore, right? They didn't need him. So then you get Mike Minor. See, Mike Minor is a middle of the road rotation starter, but he's left-handed. So now you've got 2 guys that platoon in that 3 to 5 rotation spot, right? Which, oh, by the way, everybody else that you have as a starter is a 3 or 5 in anyone else's rotation, right?
Right.
If they make a rotation. So then they sign Donovan Solano from the Giants. So now you have a third baseman, right? But you still have Mike Moustakas. And you still have Jonathan India, who's your rookie of the year. And you still have Kyle Farmer, who you signed off arbitration. And then at that point in time, you still had Jose Barrero, which is your shortstop of the future. And then they also have Ellie De La Cruz, who is their third baseman of the future. So now you have 4 third basemen and 3 second basemen.
Right.
So then the next step is they sign Colin Moran. Colin Moran's a DH. He's a first baseman. He's a left-handed hitting first baseman. Let me rephrase that. Well, you already have that. You're already paying Joey Votto the most. He's your highest paid player on your team. Well, Mike Moustakas is a left-handed hitting DH now at this point, right? Because we've already proven that he's probably not going to play the field,
Right.
because you have to have India's bat in the lineup. And now you've signed for Donovan Solano with the idea that he's replacing Eugenio Suarez.
Yeah.
But then you sign Colin Moran, who is the same thing as Mike Moustakas. Okay, so you get Naquin off arbitration, right? So you get him back. You get Senzel off of arbitration. You get him back. So now you have Aristides Aquino, Brandon Fraley, Tyler Naquin, Nick Senzel, Shogo Akiyama, TJ Friedl. That's 6-7 outfielders. And then they signed Tommy Pham, who is also an outfielder. What the fuck are you doing?
Yeah.
What is happening?
Josh's comment says it all. None of it makes sense. No, it makes zero sense.
I have no idea. You're not building anything to at that point. You're cannibalizing statistics, right? You have to play Tommy Pham, right? Tommy Pham should be the center fielder for the Reds this year. He's their best hitting outfielder now.
Yeah.
You gave Akiyama a $18 million contract. You have Aquino on the 26-man roster because of what he does to right-handed or left-handed pitching. And then you sign Tyler Naquin back after you just traded for Brandon Fraley. They're the same person. I don't get it. I don't know. Colin Moran as a pinch hitter. But do you really need a pinch hitter? Because you have a DH. So do you just bring him in if Aquino doesn't pan out in right field and you shift shit around? Like, it's just going to be the same thing. We're going to see 35 different lineups in the first 70 games, and I just can't stand for it. I hate it. I hate that David Bell does that shit. But I think he has to, right? Like, you have so many people that play such a very specific role that are sitting on your bench. Like, what are you going to do? You trade for these guys with guaranteed major league contracts. Brandon Fraley has a guaranteed major league contract. You signed Tommy Pham, Colin Moran. Like, those guys have major league contracts. I don't know. Like, I sat down and I'm like, all right, I'm going to try to figure this shit out. And the only thing that I can think of is that they're trying to figure out a way to make sure that whenever they trade Mike Moustakas, because now this tells me that that's absolutely what's happening. There's no other reason that you go out and get a Colin Moran if you're not trading Mike Moustakas. You don't sign Donovan Solano to play third base if you're not going to trade this guy. Ugh, it's so frustrating. And the only thing that they've done for their bullpen is they've signed Hunter Strickland, who is a one and done. This is a do or die contract for him. He's already out of his prime. And they signed fucking Buck Farmer to a minor league contract from the Tigers. That's it. That's all they've done to make their bullpen better.
Yeah. So needless to say, it's going to be a long season for us Reds fans. So buckle in. Josh, last question. Will Hunter Greene be a huge star for us?
So I actually think that Nick Lodolo is the better pitcher between the two of them, but I think both of them have all-star caliber talent. They both in their own right pitch in a way that is very, I don't want to say unique because everybody throws hard now, but it's beneficial to Cincinnati. Nick Lodolo is a ground ball pitcher, which is perfect for any pitcher in Cincinnati, because you have to if you pitch to contact, you have to be a ground ball pitcher because you're playing in one of the smallest fields in the major leagues. Hunter Greene throws 100 plus miles an hour for 6 innings, which if you're any organization, you want that. You want that in your repertoire. My only concern that I have for him is that he has shown multiple times in his career that he has a tendency to take himself out of a game. And what I mean by that is he gets a little wild, or he gets into a bad situation, gives up a couple runs, he's basically done. It happened several times in Louisville last year. It
was composure. to rebound.
Yeah, and right, and I think some of that just comes from like you're the number one pick, and the dude was the clear consensus best athlete when the Reds drafted him that year. Like it was Hunter Green, and then it was literally everyone else after him. Because at that point in time, he was a dual threat because he was hit like 13 home runs in his senior year of high school and was throwing 95 miles an hour. So I think both of them in their own right are really special. I still believe that there's going to be a point in time where if Hunter Green will not pan out as a starting pitcher, but I think he'll make a great closer for the Reds.
When do we see them this season?
The season starts next Thursday? June.
So 2 months?
Yeah, 2 months. I think maybe at the latest post-trade deadline, because you're not going to see Castillo or O'Malley in a Reds uniform by the trade deadline. Let everybody just be prepared for that, because that's good. Every playoff contender is going to want a good starter to get them through the end of the stretch, and both of those guys are very viable options to be a good top middle part of your rotation to get you through, especially with two extra teams in the playoffs now. It just makes those guys are going to not be in Reds uniforms anymore.
Yeah, and the Reds are going for the lowest payroll in the major leagues this year. So just
I don't know. Cleveland still hasn't done anything yet, so they made zero moves.
It's obviously a joke, but it's just it's a sad joke to make. Josh said, "Hold on, so a closer."
That's my personal opinion. Yeah, so that's my personal opinion on Hunter Green. I think that he has the ability to be a 40 save closer. I don't think that he has the durability to be a starter for a long time at the major league level. It takes a very special talent to be a hard throwing, long-term starting pitcher in Major League Baseball. We saw Justin Verlander's body start to fail him now. We're still at the forefront of pitchers throwing 100 for 6 innings. Like that's new. That's still new to us.
Right.
But
Jake DeGroms and Clayton Kershaws don't grow on trees.
Yeah. And I think that he's a better fit as a closer. He has a great fastball. He has a good two-seam fastball, a good changeup, and he's developed a slider. And as a closer, if you can have a good 3 to 4 pitch mix, you're successful 90% of the time, right? And it sucks to say that you take a number 1 draft pick and he ends up being a closer. But again, I'm going to go back to something I said at the very beginning of this. Being a closer on a contending team is one of the most important roles that you can have, because you're not going to win every game by 5 or 6. You're going to get into the bottom of the 9th up by 1, and you need a guy to shut the door. And let's be clear, Lucas Sims is not going to shut the door 90% of the time. He's not. So but I think Hunter Green, I feel confident that Hunter Green can do that.
Yeah.
And if you use him right, I firmly believe you give him a 150 inning limit this year, or whenever his first full season is, because that's how you make a pitcher last longer now with the way that they throw. You have to pretty much cap them on an inning limit.
Yep.
But it's just, I don't know. He's a closer. He's a closer to me. Everything that he does is very like Gagne-esque.
Let's see here. Ryan said, I agree with Todd about Green being a closer. Josh coming in. You guys are awesome, though. Love this. We should do an NBA before 2002 once a month. Well, you're in Luxor. Our NBA show, our basketball segment will be tomorrow night. That will be featuring Todd and Mr. Corey James. They get together on Wednesdays and talk a little basketball. That is my day off, although I would love to get in on one of these basketball segments here in the future, because I do love talking some basketball. But yeah, make sure you tune in tomorrow night for that. Ryan said it's hard to hit a 3-pitch pitcher for the first time. Each time around the lineup is easier and easier. Yeah, I mean, it's Todd has said it time and time again. You got to have at a minimum 3 pitches. If you're going to be a starter, you got to have 4 to 5. I would say 4 very, very good pitches, You can have 5 where one's not super strong, but you got to have 4 solid pitches that you can command and put wherever you want.
Yep. And one of them has to be of a similar speed to your fastball, but either move down or away.
Right.
It's got to be a cutter or sinker.
Yeah,
absolutely.
absolutely.
That's the meta of baseball right now.
Yeah, absolutely. Josh said, "Please, no LeBron."
Josh, let's make it before we hop off here. Let's make a deal. Let's do I'll commit to. If you tune in tomorrow, let me know you're tuning in. I'm gonna throw in one 1996 to 2002 name that you haven't thought of probably since you were in middle school, and just be prepared to be surprised because I'm gonna do it because they're just always rolling around in here.
I know. Just let me know about what time that's gonna happen. I'll make sure I'm on and watching so my head can explode. But no, yeah, it's definitely a great segment they do on Wednesdays. We'll be talking tournament, obviously the NBA. There's a lot going on. I mean, I don't think we're going to touch much on LeBron. LA's in shambles at this point. What time? We usually go live between 8:15 and 8:30. So just make sure if you haven't turned on the notifications or hit that follow button yet, there's a little bell in the corner. Please make sure you tap that. You will get all of our live notifications. We are also on YouTube.
Wednesdays are a little later.
Yeah, that's why I said 8:15, 8:30.
It's like after 9 o'clock now.
Oh, is it really?
Yeah, Mass Singer's on. Let's be real. Mary and I are watching the Mass Singer on Wednesday nights. I'm not missing that. I'm very invested in that show. That's like one of those like guilty pleasure shows that you just
you know what? I actually really do enjoy that show. I like.
Get ready.
I like the mystery of trying to guess the person before they're actually revealed. I think it's fun. Some of the guesses are wild, but
it's one of those shows where I could just like shut my brain off because I have to think all day long, right? So I shut my brain off and then I get to listen to people and just throw out ridiculous guesses because it doesn't matter because everybody else is doing it.
Right.
And like 10% of the time I'm right.
We got some ridiculous guesses coming in chat right now for this player you're going to mention tomorrow night. Shawn Kemp, Glenn Rice. Keep them coming. I'm interested. Let's see if you can throw out any more obscure players from the late 90s, early 2000s.
I like it. So the person I was thinking, I've already got a name in my head because I just think that there's a player that's severely undervalued in the NBA when he was playing because he was overshadowed by all of the ridiculous guards that we saw in the 90s. So just be ready.
Okay, fair enough. We'll save the surprise for tomorrow. Ryan said it's always Jamie Foxx.
It's always Jamie Foxx. Everybody guesses Jamie Foxx every year. It's great.
Yeah, because that man is one of the most talented human beings on the planet Earth. I don't know if there's anything that guy can't do. Sabonis. No, I don't think it's Sabonis. I think he's Christian. Oh, come on, Ryan. You know better.
Right. You're blocked, buddy. That's what's happening. So congratulations.
You know better.
For being the first person ever blocked from Rally Towel Sports.
Josh said Nick Van Exel.
He's getting into
John Starks.
They're in the right time frame, and I'm starting to sweat a little bit. I'm gonna be honest with you. I'm getting a little nervous. Someone's gonna say this guy's name, and I don't like it. I don't like it one bit.
No, we were watching the games on Saturday. That infamous highlight of Duke beating Kentucky was on, and I looked over at Todd. I was like, Todd, how many times do you think you've watched that clip or seen that clip, I should say? And he's like, I think at least 50. I didn't say it, but I wanted to call bullshit on that. I know it's way more than 50. You've had to have seen it more than 50 times in your lifetime.
50 times that I remember. I mean, there's probably been some times where
just blocking it out.
Yeah, I tried to suppress it for a long time, and then I've just accepted that you can't erase history. So it is what it is.
You can't. Charles Oakley.
Great.
Bruce coming in with some bombs.
Great guess.
Fun fact about Nick Van Exel, though, it's a Todd fact. Todd actually met him at a Frisch's in Cincinnati.
I did.
I remember you telling me that story.
Frisch's on Central Parkway near UC. They were playing. He was like the honorary guest that night at and they were doing like a I don't know memorial thing. I also met when I was working for CarMax, I met Corey Blount. That was pretty
wow.
cool too.
Very cool.
Another former UC guy, former NBA
Yeah.
guy. If I meet Ruben Patterson,
he played for the Bulls.
He played for the Bulls. He played for the Nuggets. He kind of journeyed around. He got arrested. Yeah. Yeah.
Josh said Eddie Jones.
Great guess. Great 90s guard guess. You guys are getting dangerously close because you're in the right size range in terms of guard and a similar style of play. And I am afraid that I'm going to have to change my person. Detlef Schrempf, one of the best 6 men of all time. I think he's right in there with the Sweet Lou and the Jamal Crawford conversation. I think he's the OG 6 man.
Yeah.
Actually, I know that for a fact.
Yeah.
The greatest player, the second
long time pacer.
And supersonic.
And supersonic.
And the second best player to come out of Germany.
Yeah. Yeah. Behind Dirk.
Yeah. That's right.
I don't think anybody gets better than that. Lynn Bias.
Rest in peace. Too much cocaine.
Oh, come on, Ryan. I'm not saying that.
You got close though. You're like, oh, no, I can't do that.
No, I was like, I said, I was like, nope. I read the last name and I'm like, nope, not going there. Ryan, once a stream, Ryan will always try to get you to say something just absolutely outlandish, and I appreciate you keeping me on my toes.
He loves it because I love it. I laugh. I have to. He likes seeing if you and I cannot laugh at his shit.
Yeah,
there's always one time every time we do this where we just can't hold it in.
I do my best to keep my composure and host this show, and keep a level of professionalism here, Ryan. Okay.
That's fair.
Either of the Hardaways. It's not It's too mainstream, but good guesses.
And I'm honestly surprised nobody's throwing out the glove. I thought for sure I'd get a Gary Payton guess in here.
Yeah.
It's not Gary Payton, but we're talking 90s. You're talking Gary, best defender of the 90s.
Yeah. I mean, his nickname wasn't the glove for no reason.
It's a fact.
But
Josh said Jamal Mashburn, a great Wildcat, but a forward. I'm thinking guard, Josh. Jamal Mashburn's a small forward.
All right, we'll take like 2 more guesses, then we're gonna wrap it up here. But no, it's gonna be a good show tonight. If you guys haven't seen, we did launch our website. So we do have rallytalsports.com. It is up, it is running. We are going to start putting blog posts on there, just about news and sports. First couple of pieces we're going to put out are some introspective pieces about us and who we are and why we're doing this. So those will start rolling out tomorrow. So stay tuned for that. But you can, and then we're going to have the merch launching on that as well. So make sure that you check out the website. I'll let everybody know when the merch goes live. Still got a couple little pieces of editing to do with it. And then we'll get that rolling out as well. Hakeem Olajuwon. No, but good guess. I already know that's not it, but
it's a great big man. There's actually, I read a fact where there's 2 guys that are, I believe, on the Patriots now. They're both named after Shaquille O'Neal and Hakeem Olajuwon, which is absolutely incredible. It's Shaq Barrett and some guy, I can't remember who the other person is, but his first name's Hakeem, and Shaq Barrett's middle name is Hakeem, and this other guy's middle name is Shaquille. It's incredible. I mean, it just shows you how big of an impact sports has on people's lives.
For sure. Bruce said Jason Kidd.
Oof. You got. I was a guard.
Ryan said white chocolate, and that was going to be my guess.
Wow. Ooh,
Sean Elliott.
Again, a forward.
Josh is coming in with some bangers.
He's throwing forwards at me. I guess Sean Elliott you could interchange him as a shooting guard. I don't know. I guess when him and Pippen were on the Spurs together, I guess Sean Elliott was the shooting guard then. But
yeah, I'd say white chocolate was one of my favorite guards of the 90s, early 2000s. I mean, that dude was just unreal.
Yeah, he brought
the flavor.
Yeah, he brought street basketball into the NBA. He was the first guy to ever just make you
that iconic just off the elbow pass.
And you just wonder, was it a travel? Are they going to call it? Because I think there were a lot of times where officials were like, I got to call a travel. He just carried the ball halfway down the court.
Ooh, Mike Bibby.
Ooh, okay. All right, you guys are heating up. It's getting close. Here's what
Josh, I
here's what
read
I'll
that as
say.
Mike Bibby. He put Mike Bobby. Maybe
There,
that's Ricky's younger cousin,
they
older cousin.
you guys have said players from a team that he was on. That's all. I'm going to leave you there.
Bobby Jackson.
A great one. Fun fact: Bobby Jackson is I got the opportunity to meet him one time because my dad's cousin is Rick Bucher, and he does a podcast with Bobby Jackson, and I got to talk to him over
Mitch Richmond.
God damn it, Bruce, you won. That was it. Mitch Richmond was my guy.
Oh.
Shit. All right. Well, I got to get back to the drawing board.
Well, you might as well get into it.
Mitch Richmond is one of the most underrated 3-point shooters of all time, only overshadowed because he was shooting threes at the same time Reggie Miller was. And you just can't talk about great 3-point shooters in the 90s, and the first person that should come to your head no matter what is always Reggie.
Yeah.
Right? Reggie's the third all-time in 3-pointers made. Top 15 all-time in free throw percentage. Mitch Richmond also top 20 in 3-pointers made. Had a great career between playing for the Kings and the Washington Bullets, now the Wizards. He was great to play with. NBA game. Mitch Richmond never missed from the baseline. Never, ever missed from the baseline.
From downtown.
I know that for a fact because Nick used to kick my ass in NBA Jam, and I would get so pissed off because all he would do is just shoot with Mitch Richmond in the corner. He would always let me beat Reggie because that's what I wanted because I thought I would win. He'd always beat me with Mitch Richmond. Haunts me in my nightmares. Bruce, great guess. I'm super proud of you for throwing up Mitch Richmond. I'm actually surprised you didn't do it sooner with being a Kings fan. And I think the Mike Bibby, the things you're on the right track with the team. I think that gave it away. As soon as I said it, I'm like, somebody's gonna get there.
Yeah. As soon as Bibby and Bobby Jackson came out, it was over.
It's over. It's over. All right. I'm gonna be back. I'm gonna be back.
The Rock.
I'll be back, Josh. I'm gonna have another one for you tomorrow. I'll drop his name in. It'll just be a sprinkle of beauty.
All right, fair enough. All right, chat. We're gonna wrap it up here. Appreciate everybody coming out tonight. Thank you for being so active in the chat. Definitely makes our jobs a little bit easier. You guys are amazing. Thank you for all the reactions, the comments. Like I said, you guys are awesome. I'll be back tomorrow night. Corey and Todd, 9:00. After the Masked Singer. So after the Masked Singer, make sure you tune in. We'll be following the Masked Singer. Just you'll see the commercial for it tomorrow.
That's
maybe
right.
At some point. But no, appreciate it. Peace and love. See you then.